بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأنكحوا الأيام منكم والصالحين من عبادكم وإمائكم إن يكونوا فقراء يغنهم الله من فضله والله واسع عليم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين العبد المؤيد الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أما بعد فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: ما من بناء في الإسلام أحب إلى الله من التزويج. Dear brothers and sisters, I have explained some rules regarding permanent marriage, and there are a few more rules to be explained in this session. There is a question which is also directed to the offices of the Grand Religious Authorities, and that is forced marriage valid? If parents force their daughter into a marriage with someone whom she does not like or whom she does not consider to be appropriate for her, is the marriage valid? Because the girl is either very shy or she is afraid of rejecting her father or saying something against her father, and she does not say anything, but she is not happy with the marriage. She does not consent to the marriage. She does not express her agreement. Now this is something like a forced marriage. Is forced marriage permissible or not? The answer is this, that forced marriage is not permissible. It is not valid as well. And the marriage, even if it takes place, will remain void, and the girl and the boy have to separate from each other. Now, in case the girl consents to the marriage after the marriage has taken place, the marriage will become valid automatically, and there is no need to renew the marriage contract. There is no need to recite the formula of marriage afresh or once again. Another question which is also frequently asked is, when a woman converts to Islam and her husband remains non-Muslim, what is the Islamic law regarding their marriage? According to all religious authorities, the marriage becomes void if a woman converts to Islam, but her husband does not convert to Islam. Now here the scholars have said that the woman must observe waiting period. She must observe iddah of 4 months and 10 days. This is the iddah of death. Now, when a woman's husband dies, she must wait for 4 months and 10 days and then she can marry another man. The same is true with a woman who converts to Islam but her husband remains non-Muslim, or her husband remains a disbeliever. She must wait for 4 months and 10 days and see whether her husband converts to Islam or not. Of course, if her husband comes to Islam, embraces Islam, and accepts the religion of the woman, and he becomes Muslim, then they remain married to each other. And the scholars have said that as a measure of precaution, as a measure of ihtiyat, the two parties to the marriage, the husband and the wife, should recite the formula of marriage once again. That is something precautionary, because both of them have converted to Islam. In case the husband does not convert to Islam even after 4 months and 10 days, then the woman can marry another man, and that man should be a Muslim man, because a Muslim woman cannot marry a non-Muslim man under any circumstances. And it does not make any difference whether the marriage is temporary or permanent. It is not allowed on the part of the woman it's not allowed for the woman, of course, to marry a non-Muslim husband. Now, there is another question also which is sometimes asked by some mu'mineen, and that is, if a man marries a woman and the man finds out that his wife is suffering from some physical problem or from some diseases or from some difficulties, can he divorce his wife, or can he annul the marriage or not? The ground religious authorities have said that if the husband comes to know after nikah, of course after nikah, that his wife had at the time of nikah any one of the following deficiencies or difficulties, which I will mention, of course, then he can annul the marriage. It is important to note that the deficiencies existed before and during the nikah. When the nikah was being recited, she was already suffering from that problem and she had those deficiencies. Of course, if one of those deficiencies exists, then the man has the right to cancel the marriage. Now, what are those deficiencies? Number one is when a woman is suffering from insanity, and that could be intermittent. She might be sane sometimes and insane some other times. Now, if a woman is suffering from some kind of insanity, even though it is intermittent, then the husband can cancel the marriage. And of course, divorce is not required. He has the right to annul the marriage, to nullify the nikah. That is allowed. Secondly, if a woman is suffering from leprosy, which is a kind of disease and which is contagious also, the husband can separate from the woman and he can annul the marriage. And of course, if the woman is suffering from leukoderma, which is a kind of skin disease characterized by white spots and patches on the skin, then of course the husband can annul the marriage.
حول حالنا يا أحسن الحال.
And the fourth deficiency is blindness. If a man finds out that his wife is blind, he can annul the marriage and there is no need for divorce. And the fifth deficiency is when the woman is found to be crippled. Crippled in the sense that she cannot move and she looks like an aged person. She is immobile. She cannot move. She is completely crippled. In this case, the husband can annul the marriage, and of course the marriage is cancelled and can be cancelled by the husband. And the sixth deficiency is when a woman is suffering from some kind of physical deficiency. For example, there is a bone, or maybe there is an extra flesh in her uterus which does not allow the husband to have sexual intercourse with her. In this case, the husband can annul the marriage, and he has the right to do so. Now, what if the husband suffers from some kind of diseases or problems? Can the wife annul the marriage? Can he cancel the marriage? Of course, she has also the same right, and she maintains the right to annul the marriage if a woman finds out that her husband is suffering from a contagious disease, like let's say he is suffering from AIDS, or he is suffering from a disease which will undermine the woman's health, then she can cancel the marriage. And the same is true if, for example, the husband is unable to have sexual intercourse with his wife. He is impotent. He does not have the organ, the sexual organ. He lacks it, in which case the woman has the right to cancel the marriage and to separate from him. Now, in all these cases, there is no need for divorce. There is no need for any formula to be recited in order for the husband and the wife to be legally separated. Of course, they have to separate according to legal rules if they want to marry another person, because if they have a registered marriage, and if their marriage is registered by the government, they have to turn to the court and declare the separation to the government, so that they are considered legally separated from each other. And remember that legal separation has nothing to do with legal divorce, with the Islamic divorce. You might, with a man and a woman, might separate from each other legally, but they might still remain married to each other because the formula of divorce has not been recited in accordance with Islamic law. So this has to be taken into consideration, and of course I will elaborate on the rules of divorce in the near future or in the coming sessions, inshallah. An important question is asked by some mu'mineen, and that is, with whom matrimony is haram? What are those women? Who are those women with whom marriage is forbidden according to Islamic law? there are a number of women whom a person cannot marry according to Islamic law. Of course, number one, I should say, they are the mahram relatives. The mother, sister, aunt, paternal aunt, maternal aunt, these are the relatives, the blood relatives. It is forbidden to marry them. And here I should explain the difference between mahram and non-mahram, because this is one of the questions also. Some people ask, who are the mahram relatives and what is the definition of mahram? Mahram is a woman whom a person or a man cannot marry. If a woman cannot be married under any circumstances, then she is mahram to you. You cannot marry him. For example, your sister is your mahram. You cannot marry her. Your aunt and your aunt's grandmother, no matter how high the line may go up, they are mahram to you. And your aunt, be it, of course, paternal aunt or maternal aunt, are mahram to you. You cannot marry them. And this is one of those women whom you cannot marry and with whom matrimony is absolutely forbidden. The same is true with the daughters and granddaughters of the wife. If the wife has, for example, you are married to a woman and she has daughters or maybe granddaughters, daughters from another husband, you cannot marry her. And if she has granddaughters, you cannot marry them. It is absolutely forbidden. And another woman whom you cannot marry as long as you are married to, of course, you cannot marry your wife's sister. As long as you are married to one of the sisters, you cannot marry the other. This is forbidden. But of course, she is not mahram to you. Because of a hindrance, you cannot marry her. If, for example, your wife dies, then she becomes permissible for you. Marriage with her becomes allowable. I told you, and I mentioned, that mahram is one with whom marriage is forbidden at all time and under all circumstances. Now, marriage with a wife's sister is permissible when the wife dies. And as long as your wife is alive, you cannot marry her sister. Another woman with whom matrimony is forbidden is your niece, the daughter of your brother or the daughter of your sister. It is forbidden, it is haram for you to marry your sister's daughter or your brother's daughter. That is absolutely forbidden. If a man, for example, before marrying his maternal or paternal aunt's daughter, a person commits incest, sexual intercourse with her mother. For example, with her aunt, she has incest. She commits incest, forbidden sexual intercourse. The religious authorities have said that as an obligatory precaution, he cannot marry her sister. Her sister becomes haram for him as an obligatory precaution. Here, the fatwa is based on precaution. The statement is based on precaution. It is not actually a fatwa, because a fatwa is either it says that it's either haram or it's obligatory or it's makruh or it is mustahab. This saying, this verdict is based on precaution. Now here the fatwa differs. You have to turn to the fatwa of your own religious authorities, and you have to find for yourself as to what the marja whom you are following, the mujtahid whom you are following, says in this regard.
ناجيتك يا رحمن ودعوتك يا ديان يا خالق الإنسان الله 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 يا خالق الإنسان الله الله الله.
It has to be mentioned also that another woman which is forbidden to marry with is a non-Muslim woman. Of course, marriage with a non-Muslim woman permanently is forbidden. If she is Christian or Jewish, temporary marriage with her is allowed. And if you are married to a Muslim woman, you cannot, as an obligatory precaution, you cannot, of course, marry her, a non-Muslim woman, a Jewish woman, a Christian woman. Even if your wife permits, the obligatory precaution is that you cannot marry her. As far as permanent marriage with a non-Muslim woman is concerned, of course, it's not permissible to contract permanent marriage with a non-Muslim woman, even though she might be Christian or Jewish, or maybe Zoroastrian, because according to Shia scholars, Zoroastrians are also the people of the book. They are called Ahl Kitab. If a baligh boy, if an adult boy commits sodomy with another boy, now that the other boy may be either adult or he might be a minor child, it is forbidden for the perpetrator, for the person who committed sodomy, to marry the boys, the minor boys or the adult boy's sister, mother, and of course daughter. It is absolutely forbidden. Now I repeat it again. If a baligh, adult boy, commits sodomy with a non-baligh boy or with a baligh boy, a person who has attained the age of puberty, commits sodomy with a child, with a minor child, or with a child who, with a boy who has attained the age of puberty, it is forbidden for the doer to marry the child's sister or the boy's sister or her mother or her daughter. It is absolutely forbidden. Then there is another example of a woman whom cannot be married, and that is if a man marries a woman who is in the iddah or waiting period of her husband, and the man contracts marriage with her. Now that woman who has been in the iddah, waiting period of her husband, becomes permanently haram and permanently forbidden for that man. Even though he may not have had sexual intercourse and sexual intimacy with that woman, the woman becomes permanently haram for that man. And the same is true if a man commits adultery with a married woman, with a woman who is already married. And of course, it does not make any difference whether that woman is married to a Muslim husband or to a non-Muslim husband. She might be a disbeliever, she might be Christian or Jewish, but she is, of course, married, and she is considered to be married even according to their own court. Then it is forbidden for the man to marry that or to contract marriage with her. It is absolutely forbidden. And that woman, of course, becomes permanently haram. There is no way to make the marriage allowable. There is no way to make these two halal for each other. Sometimes people ask questions saying, okay, there is a woman, there is a Christian woman, a Jewish woman who is not in good terms with her husband. She has been away from her husband for the past 6 months or 1 year, and they look like they are separated from each other. But of course, according to their law, according to their code, according to their, of course, religion, they are married to each other, even though the woman has separated from her husband for many, many months. Now they ask the question whether marriage, temporary marriage especially, is allowed with that woman or not. Of course, it is not allowed. Temporary marriage with such a woman is forbidden because she is considered to be married in the eye of Sharia. According to Sharia law, she is married. And if a person commits a sin, and if a man contracts marriage with such a woman, of course, becomes permanently haram. She becomes forbidden for the man forever, and they cannot marry each other. And of course, if a woman is divorced for a third time by her husband, that woman also becomes haram for her husband because the woman has received talaq ba'in, and that is the third divorce. The third divorce is called, in Arabic terminology, in jurisprudential terminology, it is called talaq ba'in, which means that the husband cannot marry his wife for a fourth time because she has been divorced for a third time, and that is the final divorce. Of course, now there's an exception. There is something to be explained here. If this same woman who has been divorced for a third time and now she cannot marry her husband for a fourth time, if she marries another man and that man divorces her, she can marry now the former husband. She can marry the first, provided that the second man divorces her. If he does not divorce her, because divorce is man's right, divorce is in man's hand. And if the second man does not divorce her, then of course she will remain married to that man, and she cannot marry the former husband. These are some of the details and explanations regarding permanent marriage. Inshallah, I will further explain the remaining rules in the next session to come. Until then, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اللهم بارك للحجاج والزوار في الزاد والنفقة، واقض ما أوجبت عليهم من الحج والعمرة بفضلك ورحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.